Hi everybody, Eugene here with Darkroom Software. In this quick back to basics episode, we are going to be talking about lighting. Lighting is very important for photography. After all, it is mapping of light. So we're going to be getting some hands-on experience with what we have here is a mono light. We'll also look at speed lights and constant lights like LED lights. So let's jump right into the episode and get started, and I'll see you back here in a little bit. Hi everybody. Okay, so here we have 3 different lighting systems that you might see with photo booth, and we're going to go over some of the pros and cons of each. We'll go ahead and start with a speed light. This is mounted directly to the camera hot shoe. So whenever the computer or the camera takes a photo, the flash then fires. In this case, this one is lower on battery, so it needs to wake up. So, and then it has a little bit of a slower recycling time. But what this type of flash does is it is using TTL metering. So it puts out a small flash, looks at everything, and then adjusts that power output to match what the exposure settings are in the camera. You can set it to manual, but that's one of the nicer things about it is that it does adjust the power. There are quite a few downsides with specifically TTL metering. You might run into issues where you get inconsistent results because it's taking the whole scene in, background, clothing. So if somebody wearing a white dress on a white background, you might see that they're underexposed because it's seeing all that white and it thinks it's overexposed, so it brings it down to more of a gray color. And the opposite might be true with dark clothes and a dark background. It would then try to overexpose it, and it's really going for a gray, overall gray color when everything's mixed together. So that I say color, not color, but tone, to know it's a proper exposure. So let's say I was shooting on a green wall. Whenever you desaturate it, it's closer to gray, but a white wall, it would then underexpose, or a black wall, it would then overexpose. So that's one thing to keep in mind with speed lights. Also, the adapters that you have available are the modifiers. There are less options there. So you might be able to find a little dome or a little softbox that goes over it, and you can set them up into multiple, a multi-flash system. That's a little bit more complex. So that's the speed light. The next is going to be the most common, and that's going to be a mono light or a studio strobe or studio flash. And these are probably the most versatile and the most consistent. It's putting out the same power each time, and you're able to adjust that power a few stops depending on the type of flash. So right now I have it set on the lowest power, and I have a modeling light that's also tracking that. So you might see if the tracking was off. That's the modeling light. When I turn off the tracking, then it gets a lot brighter. And what a modeling light is used for, typically in studios, is to actually model the subject, so you can see how they're lit, how the shadows are following. So that's typically what that's used for. In a photo booth, it can be helpful for focusing. So it shouldn't be used as your primary light if, let's say, you're doing video, because it's just not strong enough and the color is horrible. But the modeling light can help a camera focus in lower light conditions. So you can crank up or take the tracking off of the modeling light, so it's just bright, but then the flash is still the correct power. Let's flip it around and kind of look at this. This is an older Alien V, but I have a few stops of power. So this is full power right here. One thing that I'll notice is if I bring my power back down, it's red. It's saying that it has more power stored than it is actually set for. So if I take a picture, it's actually going to be overexposed for the setting. It's going to put out way more power than it should. So I'm going to dump it. You'll see it's real bright. And then this one is going to be a lot less power output. Currently, I'm using a wireless trigger remote. But let me grab the camera. Typically in a photo booth environment, you're going to have a sync cable, and this is a small one, but it would attach to the camera typically through a hot shoe adapter, or some cameras have it where you can plug it into the side. But you would have a hot shoe adapter, and then this plugs right in there, and then whenever the camera fires, it would take a picture. Now me, I typically work a little bit more in the studio. I have a wireless trigger that's doing the same thing. Let me switch autofocus off. So, and that cycles pretty fast compared to the battery power here. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is there's an option where you have an optical slave, and what that does is whenever it sees a flash, it will then fire this. So if you run into an issue where you're using a flash on the camera to remotely set off your strobe, you might run into issues where another photographer starts setting off your strobe. And so you can plug in an adapter into the sync port, and that will keep it from firing. So now if I take a picture, this one's not firing. But I like my little remotes. So I'll plug that guy in there, and now whenever I take pictures, that fires. So what makes these so versatile is the different adapters or lighting modifiers. So you can see I have a little umbrella, and it takes this small light source, which is this 5 or I don't know how many inch reflector. Now I have this much light coming out, and if I test it, you can see the whole thing lights up, and that's now reflecting back towards my subjects. And I have an even bigger umbrella here. I kind of fold this, and you can kind of see what's going on here. Why do we want these type of things in photography? So, if you think about a sunny day, you have a light source from the sun. That's a small light source, and you get these real harsh shadows that aren't real flattering. Versus a cloudy day, the sun's lighting up these clouds, and then you have a nice soft light. That's where these come in and are helpful. They turn the small light source into a larger cloud size or bigger light source. So instead of having this small, we're now at 3 feet. So those are some of the benefits of using a monolight or a studio strobe. And then here we're getting into constant lighting. Now I would not use this for a photo booth, because if you're looking into these lights, like I'm doing right now, I'm using the same type of light right in front of me. It starts hurting your eyes, so most people don't like it. So these are not the greatest option for a photo booth. Where these come in really handy is a video booth, and you can use this and this combined and have one booth that does video and photos. You're using your constant light for video, and you have a higher ISO setting. And then with your photo booth, you're using a strobe that then takes a picture, and you can use that lower ISO setting. One of the things I like about these lights, they're pretty modern. I can adjust the power output with my phone. I can adjust the color temperature. It's kind of hard to see, but typically whenever you're doing video, you're trying to match some sort of other lighting that you're in. So you can adjust the lighting, or this is a RGB LED light. I can switch to RGB mode, and you can see enough green, or I can change it to red. I can use it for effects. So I'm going to dial back that brightness, because like I said, having those lights bright in your face and eyes, it causes you to squint. It doesn't look good, doesn't feel good. But this one is using a lighting modifier. It's got barn doors. And typically, why would I have barn doors? It's because I'm lighting from the side and I don't want that light going straight into the camera. So I don't know throughout this video, because it's lighting straight into the lens, you might see lens flares throughout. So this has barn doors on it because it's used for accent lighting. And I'm using the same light with a softbox for most videos that you see me record. But that is kind of 3 different lighting options. One thing you want to keep in mind is this is lighting that you can control. Lights that you can't control are going to be the sun, party lights, the venue. So these are all made to overpower. And a lot of people are thinking the flash isn't going to overpower the sun. You can actually light up using a flash, overpower that sun. So even if you're outdoors and you have really harsh shadows and don't have shade available, this can fill in those shadows just because it's not as strong as the sun, but it's a lot closer. So that's one really important thing. The thing to keep in mind is the closer the light is, the stronger it is. There's a inverse square law if you want to look into it. And that gets a little bit more into photography, but if you're kind of math nerdy, it's totally worth looking into, and that will change your photography. Huge, learning the distance and the size and how that all affects the quality of your images. But the important thing to remember is these are things that you can control. Whenever you go into an environment that you have very little control, these will help you out. You'll see wedding photographers with these all the time because it's something they can bring with them and move around. But for us photo booth people, we're going to be in a set space, so this is going to be a better option. If you're doing videos, this is the guy for you. And I'm not talking specifically about these models, I'm talking about this type of lighting equipment. There are other manufacturers that might make better equipment or different equipment. Like this one I've had for 15 years and is still kicking on the same bulbs. One of the small things I want to talk about as for do's and don'ts, if you have one of these lights, and they typically come with a little dome. I'm going to turn this off so it's not pumping out this heat. But if it's not an LED light, those can get pretty hot. So if you put that dome on and forget to plug it in, turn it on, you won't see that it's on. So you can melt the dome and ruin the whole light. Also, one thing to look out for is right here, that little ring, that's what's firing the strobe. You don't want to touch that. The oils on your fingers can cause weak points and cause it to explode or break or damage it. So try to avoid touching either of the bulbs because they could be hot. But that's one thing to keep, or a couple things to keep in mind safety-wise. And if you use an older flash equipment that plug into a power bank, which very few people are using these days, those actually store up a whole bunch of energy and those can electrocute you. So if you're using those, replace them with a monolight. I mean, there's still electricity, but it's not storing all that and just looking to dump it all at once. So that is lighting, back to basics lighting. I hope this has been helpful. The next on the list is going to be templates, so that should be a little bit more computer-based. And then we have one more where we're going to be talking about printers and different printers, do's and don'ts with printers. So thank you so much for sticking with me. I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, I hope that was informative. Now, before we go, there's one thing I did want to cover inside a darkroom, and that is the live view. So, in your live view menu, if you notice that your flash is not firing, if you have this live view set to not pause, continue without pausing or 0 seconds, that actually does not give the camera an opportunity to disable the live view to trigger that flash. So if you notice that the live view is or the flash is not firing, check out this setting and make sure it's at least set to 1 second, but default is 2 seconds. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.